Hello and welcome to today's Saratech enablement session. My name is Andrea Hall and I'm the Customer Relationship Manager at Saratech, and I'll be your host today. Presenting today we have Chad Evans, and he is an applications engineer here at Saratech, and he'll be talking to you about what is new in NX12. And you might be paused.
Oh, I apologize. Yep.
That's okay. Happens all the time. Our sessions run about 30 minutes each. They are all recorded and posted to the Saratech YouTube channel. Make sure you check out our past sessions on our YouTube channel. There's lots of great information there. We are also posting shorter videos. So if you have any questions and you need to call our support line, you may be able to find some of your answers there on our YouTube channel. But for the customer enablement sessions, we meet here twice a month, and we just learn about tips and tricks, new and old features that will help you in your everyday tasks. And this is an open forum, so if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, you can go ahead and type them into that questions box over on the right-hand side, and then I will kindly interrupt Chad and just let him know what your questions are during the session. There will also be time at the very end of the session. We have a quick little survey where you can add follow-up comments and questions there as well. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Chad.
All right, thanks, Andrea. Well, good morning or good afternoon to either the East Coast or West Coast guys. My name is Chad Evans. I am one of the applications engineers here at Saratech. I did put my email address on there, cevans@saratech. So if you do have any questions, feel free to email me during the presentation, after the presentation, or even if you have any future NX questions. So today, our agenda, some of the items that we want to look at, the subject items that are new to NX. So I'm going to talk real briefly about some of the things that were NX11 and a couple of things that are new to NX version 12. Some of the new items of NX12 is our variable offset face. So the panel option was in NX11, but the pad option is new with NX12. So I'm going to be showing you that. We're going to be going into the flattening and forming, showing the improved control with the riff edge command, going into the sheet metal, showing some flat pattern, some tab enhancements with the base or the secondary. And within that, we're going to be looking at the region boundary curves within the tab functions. And then we're going to get into the enable geometry mirror and pattern. So this next roadmap, I just wanted to show you real quickly the way NX came out in NX 2017. So you can see here, we've got the different versions that are out there. And then 2018 is when NX12 rolled out. So the enhancements I'm showing is in here, the NX 12.0.2, and I'm currently using maintenance pack 4. But also I wanted to show you here the NX next release. So we've had on January 20th, a lot of people that were on maintenance were getting their new license key for the next release, and people are calling us saying, hey, you know, I see this next release, it's 1847. We're getting a lot of calls into the support line. So I just want to throw that out there to show you that there is a next release of NX that is available today. They can download and try it out. But you do go to the Siemens website, and it is listed as 1847 today. Also, a couple comments here on the operating system. So now with NX12, it is certified with Windows 10. We've had a few calls into our support line saying, hey, when is NX going to be certified with Windows 10? It is certified today. Also want to emphasize that Windows 7, the standard support has ended with Siemens, so they're kind of emphasizing forward with Windows 10. And then the Windows 8, we rarely had too many customers that were not on Windows 8. Even myself, I was on Windows 7 for the past couple of years. So modeling, I want to talk real briefly here about the variable offset face. So the panel option, this came out in NX11. So I'm going to be showing you a little presentation where I've created this surface, created a couple little planes. We're going to create some regions. So within my different regions, I can modify that. So I'll show you that in my quick little demo here in a second. And then secondary, we have a pad option. So this pad type was available in NX12. So this is something that's just recently come out. And when you install the 1202, there is a big enhancements with NX12. So you can see here, I've actually created a little 2D sketch, threw it on my surface, and I can create a nice drag. It's almost like a sheet metal where I'm pulling my material in one direction. So I'll show you that too in a second. Some of the modeling, we're going to get into the flattening and forming enhancements with new improved control. Gives us more options for section surface creation. And here we can flatten more complex shapes without distortion. So the rip edge, so you can see here, this is my, on the left-hand side, this is my original part that I've extracted maybe from a solid or a surface. And this is my finished part, but now I want to re-engineer it and go backwards. So I'm going to flatten it out by selecting my bottom face, flatten it out, but that's not quite how my blank would be. So you can see the third picture on the right-hand side, using the rip command, I'm going to get a more precise flattened shape. All right, let me get into my demo here. All right, Andrea, you can see my NX?
Yes, I see. Okay. Yes, I see it now.
Thank you. I just wanted you to confirm. Okay, so what we've done today is we're going to be using a variable offset face. So to find this command, it's going to be under Surface, and then under our More, under Variable Offset Face. So this variable offset face, you can see it gives us a little explanation. It offsets multiple regions of a body, where some regions are constant offsets and some regions are variable offset to bridge between constant offset regions. So I'm going to pick I kind of added it to my left toolbar here. Going to make sure I've got my body faces turned on so I can select all my parts, but I built one surface on here, or one face. So it's going to select everything. Gives me my green check, so it literally tells me, yes, I've selected it. Now what's my next one? My region boundaries. So what am I going to be using to create this? So if you look down below, I can be using a face, a datum planes, or surfaces to create my boundaries. So first thing I'm going to do is select my plane. Gives me my little section cut there. It creates a region 1. Select my next one. Creates my region 2 and then my region 3. You can see in my list 1, 2, and 3. So if I take this, I can actually extract it in a certain direction. Okay, extract that one up, next one down, and let's take the one in the middle. We'll just extract it in between a little bit. But if you notice, I can also, everything's on offset, but I can also bridge this. So if I look at my part, I can create this bridge in between the two regions, and then I could be modifying it or playing around with it and surface it. It's a nice little tool. So I can say okay to that, and let's hide a couple things here. Hide my planes, and then here's my finished part. So pretty nifty little tool. But the object here is quicker to market, quicker to design. All right, so let's go down to my next one. Creating my pad. So similar surface design. I got my exact same surface, but what I did is I actually created the sketch on a plane, and then I projected it onto the surface. So we'll go back into my offset. So NX11 had the panel function. Well, NX12 we've created as a pad enhancement. So same thing, I select my face, gives me my green check, and go back to my boundary. So now I actually want to be using this sketch as my connecting, I've using connecting curve as my next region. So now you can see I've got two regions in here. If I pull this up, all right, go back to my bridge, offset that. That's a nice little part. And if you notice, I still got my original part in there. So if I say okay to this, I can hide my swept, and there's my part. So it's a nice, nifty little tool here. Especially if you want to, especially some of the guys that are, want to draw a certain pattern on a sheet metal or a surface and draw in a certain direction to see how that looks. You can do that ahead of time. Okay. And next, let's get into our next part, which is going to be our flattening and forming. So our flattening and forming, you can see here, it flattens the faces to a plane and reapplies those modifications to other objects. Okay, if I come over here, select my face, I've got my body face turned on. This is going to be my body that I'm going to flatten in that area, so along my XY plane. What's my specifying my origin? So we'll just take the datum origin, the 0, 0, 0. And which direction do we want? No, we'll just pick this little X direction. So there's my flattened part. So you can see that's not quite the way the blank is going to be stamped out. So what we did is we can say okay to that. Now I can see my existing part and then my blank down here. So if I go back into my flattening and forming, it created this rip edge, which is an enhancement with NX12. So if I come in and I pick my edges, you can see I've got preview turned on. So as I'm selecting my edges, it is literally recalculating my data. So it's really nice tool, especially if I want to get a more accurate design that I can send to the shop, build a nice little blank. And this is how the actual part is going to be looking when it's stamped out. So you can see with my preview, it's dynamically creating my new, taking the distortion right out of the part. That looks good. Say okay to that. And what they also did is they did a little enhancement here with the CES. And we can make that dynamic now. Or I can actually, let's bring this over a little bit so I can see my part and my blank so they're not right on top of each other. So it's a nice enhancement with NX12. All right, let's go back to my next monitor and we're going to continue on. All right, so next we're going to get into sheet metal with the flat pattern creation options. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the convert to sheet metal enhancements, the multi-edge flange, the multi-profile, and multi-bend tabs. So within the flat pattern creation options, using a CES to orient the flat, so I can either go by in the past, NX11 was just the default orientation. But now I can actually do a select edge. I can either do graphical in an X direction or horizontal. So you can see here I've got a select edge, or I can specify my CES, and it's nice for parts that don't have a linear edge. Okay, and then some of the settings enhancements that they did under the flat pattern is the associative and the fix it timestamp. And that's all under our flat pattern. So some of the bend list options. So once we get our flat pattern, we want to go back and we want to edit. So I can go back and bring up my list. So this is where I can edit my bend sequence ID, my bend name right within my list here. I can reorder those. Also, I want to show you the error message. So you get a flat pattern that must be created. A flat pattern model must be in the active view. So as I create my flat pattern, you're going to see an error message pop up saying the flat pattern is in view such and such now. And I'll show you how that is in our demo. And this will carry through to the drawing and the bend table command. So you can see under flat pattern, this is where our bend list is, right under flat pattern. So convert to sheet metal enhancements. So now we have a local conversion. So what I mean by local conversion here in NX12 is if I only wanted to be a flat, if I wanted a conversion just of, this one little section of it, that is a local conversion, where in the past we just had a global conversion. So now we also have a corner cleanup and repair. So as I'm selecting adjacent faces, this is kind of like the corner is going to be, but as I'm cleaning up my corners and my preview is turned on, I'm going to see a nice sharp corner here. So the dynamic preview is a good enhancement while I'm cleaning up that corner. So our multi-flange edge, so the sheet metal enhancements in this release will build upon the improvements made in recent releases. So with sheet metal NX12, we have improved productivity, flexibility of feature positioning, rich output for downstream features, and greater flexibility in design and interoperability of features. So next I'm going to get into my demo. And switch my screen back to my monitor 1. Oh, and also I wanted to show you real quick here. So you can see with our enhancements with NX12 is, as if I wanted to see multiple windows at any given time, we have, whatever active window I currently have, you can see here, I drag that tab and I can bring it right down. So here I can have multiple windows open at any given time, which is really nice. Open up my next one. All right, so now I've got into my tab, and let me go ahead and close this one out. So first thing I'm going to do is create my tab. But with my tab, I have a region boundary curves. They've made enhancements here. So as I come in here and actually let me hit my reset button real quick. Region boundary curves. So as I go and select my 2D sketch. So this is a 2D sketch I just threw out hit there real quick, kind of like the base of what my sheet metal part might be. I can go in here and select my regions. So as I'm selecting my regions, it highlights it recognizes my outer lines of that circle. Like select the edge, and then maybe a little bit on this outer one, and you can see here, I've got a nice little tab there, it's highlighted. So as I select it, boom, it gives me a nice tab. Where in the past, I would create a squared tab, and then I would create another sketch, and I would do a removal of that geometry. So they made some nice enhancements with the sheet metal tab in here. So I can say, oh, apply to this. Also, the next enhancement is a secondary. So here I've got 2 secondary tabs that I want to create on this blank. So if I come in here to my connected curves, I threw out some basic geometry lines, but if you notice, I didn't do any trimming here. I just threw a couple lines out there that I knew that tab that will work perfect for my part. There it gives me my preview because I have my preview turned on. I can say apply to that. So my lines do not have to go to the existing edge. You can see I had a little bit of overlap. But now on this side, I've got multiple regions here. I've got basically, it looks like 1, 2, 3 different regions. If I go to my connecting curves, select my curves, it recognizes my outer. But it didn't quite recognize that hole. But if I select that hole, the intelligence was built in there to remove that data from my part. So that's a nice enhancement there. I can say okay there. So that's a pretty nice little part there. Next, let's go into my multi-bend. All right, so you can see it's going to do the same thing. I'm going to create my sheet metal tab. I'm going to go to my region boundary curves. And as I hold my cursor on top of that region, it highlights what my preview might be. So it gives me the intelligence of the NX is telling me what my pad is going to look like. I select it, and 3 millimeters, that's good. That's a nice thickness for me. I can say okay to that. All right, next I want to create some flange. So I have a multi-flange option here that they enhanced it. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create this as a full. And I'm going to pick this one edge. There's my top edge, my next top. So you can see I'm doing a multi-select on my edges. So which is nice is also all 3 of these are linked together. So as I'm rotating it, I want to extend it. Everything's dynamic. I can bring it out. I can bring it in. See, it looks really nice. But the 3 of these are linked together. That was a nice enhancement with the NX12. It built some more intelligence. Okay, so I'll say okay to that. Next, what I want to do is I want to create another flange. And I'll create this next flange in the middle of this line. And I want to make that line center. So my flange that I'm going to be creating is centered to that line. And we'll pick that flange. Oh, I picked the wrong line. I apologize. There it goes. Let's had a little bug there. All right, so let's say 10 mils. It's a little small. Let's make it 40. That looks good. Material inside. Let's go material outside. So I can want to bring it out a little bit. But at the same time, I could bring this outside my part if I wanted to. or I could bring it in more if I wanted to. Okay, or the offset, let's just say 0 for now. I like the way that looks. Okay, or I can make this however I want my little flange to be. But I like this to be 90 because if I want to put this like a clip, so I'm going to clip this on to an existing part, or have an existing part clipped to it. So that's why I'm thinking 90. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another one on the other side. So I'll say okay to that. But now what I want to do is I want to put another one on the opposite side. Well, some of the enhancements that we did here is under mirror feature. So if you notice, if I pick my feature that I just created, and then I have it select my plane, so I'm going to go along the XZ plane. Say okay to that. So there's my my flange that I created. But if you notice, I did this centered. So it actually took this existing line of this edge, and that created the center. So what they did is they went back and did an enhancement to the flange and saying, hey, that's not quite what I wanted. Okay, so if I go to geometry properties under my flange and say enable geometry mirror and pattern, say okay to that. So now you can see it actually took a mirror across. It didn't go mirror on the line of the edge. So that was an enhancement with NX12. And then now I'm going to go back. I want to create my flange. I want to add this next flange that's out there. So what they did is they also added another enhancement, this miter edge. So here you can see I created the next flange, but the option under geometry properties is miter. So I can miter all those edges together. Say okay to that. That looks good. Now I can go back to my flat pattern. And we'll pick this face, and we'll just pick this edge as my reference. We'll say okay to that. There's my message that the flat pattern was created in my view called flat pattern 1. And then if you notice, I go over here to my flat pattern. There's my flat pattern in my nice 2D profile. And we talked about our bend list earlier. But here's my bend list. If I want to go back and reorder or rename this, that's an option I have now with NX12. Okay, so some of the 3 takeaways from today's session. We show the variable offset face with our pad enhancements with NX12, flattening and forming showing our rip edge enhancements, and then our multi-edge flange with the multi-profile enhancements. And we'll talk about our next session. Do you want to take over, Andrea?
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much. Great job today, Chad. Yeah, our next session is going to be on active workspace within Team Center. If it's something that you already own, I highly recommend you attend. And if it is something that you have been thinking about getting to supplement your other software, please feel free to join us on Thursday, March 7th. And if you cannot attend, but you would still like the recording, just go ahead and register and we'll send that recording out to you. Next slide. And here at Saratech, of course, we don't only offer software, we also offer engineering services, training, and of course, additive manufacturing. 3D printers are really taking off right now. That department is booming over here at Saratech. So if you have any questions about hardware like that, please let us know. And then just make sure you follow us on all of our social media, especially YouTube. Please register for or subscribe on that page so that you get notifications whenever we post videos. We will be posting today's session, and we will also be emailing it out to you. So thank you again, everyone. And please feel free. Let me see. I don't see any questions that have been typed in. But if you have any follow-up questions, please add them into the little survey that's going to pop up in just a moment. And then you're also welcome to email Chad at cevans@saratech.com. Thanks and have a great day.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye now.
Bye.